there's something, I call it marketing whack-a-mole. That's a term I came up with a long time ago. How many dentists go to some conference and they hear somebody get up raving about, how much custom video is important in your social media. So that's the little gopher that popped up or the mole. So that's what they're whacking. And they go to the next conference. And so their marketing strategy is just chasing whatever the most recent thing they heard was.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients podcast. First off, I want to thank the sponsors of the podcast. And the sponsors are Dental Intelligence, Cloud Dentistry, and the Doc Site. So check them out. They are sponsors. They allow me to do this recording and give me their help in promoting and recording this episode. So check them out. In addition, if you're listening to this podcast, you may or may not know that I am hosting my first live event in September 2023, September 29th and 30th to be exact, down here in Florida in Delray Beach. The meeting is called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. We're going to be doing a marketing and business boot camp for 2 days. The first day is based on the marketing side of dentistry, and the second day is based on the business side of dentistry. So check it out. You can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and get and register for the event here. It's in a beautiful hotel called the Opal Grand Resort. So check that out. And then let's get into today's episode. Please welcome to the Raving Patients podcast, Rusty Curtis from DentalCMO. Rusty, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Len. Happy to be here.
So, Rusty, for those in the industry that don't know who you are, and obviously today we're going to be talking about how marketers or why marketers will take advantage of dentists, or how they will, or most marketers will. Why don't you do a brief intro about who you are, what you do, how you help dentists, and we'll start with that.
Yeah, my name is Rusty Curtis. I've been involved with dental marketing or dentistry since I think 2008 is when I was introduced to it. So I've been in the trenches for a long time. It's easy to get disconnected from the show, if you will, when you can hide behind the CEO office. But I've stayed fairly connected, spoken to thousands of dentists across multiple countries over the years. We work with many of them. I'm also the author of the book on dental marketing. I'll give that plug right there, How to Light Up Your Market and Terrify Your Competition. So this is a textbook on dental marketing, and we use that as a framework. Now, as far as what DentalCMO does, we can kind of do almost anything marketing, or at least point you in the right direction. But what we're particularly well known for is our creative service execution. So branding, websites, videos, brochures, coming up with that stuff, even on the strategy. We do some of the actual advertising execution too. It just really depends where people are at. We like to really talk to a dentist first, find out what their goals are, and then kind of make a plan from there.
And Rusty, am I correct that I have a little blurb in your book? Is that correct?
I don't know. You might.
I thought you did. I thought you asked me.
You're saying, inserted you in there. Yeah, you do actually, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Yes, I thought you had inserted me in your book.
I felt like I was on a late night show and you were about to show a clip from my movie that I had no idea which clip you picked. So
No. I'm in your book. So
you got it. Yeah, Len is in the book.
Yes, correct. And just so you know, guys, if you check out resources.drlentao.com, which is it's like kind of Len's favorites, kind of like Oprah's favorites. Rusty's team is listed there as one of my favorite companies to work with. So please, after you listen to this episode, check him out and learn more about what he can do. So, Rusty, let's jump into the content part of our episode, and let's talk about some of the things you wanted to talk about. So first, is it really, quote unquote, new patients you want? What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, that's kind of almost a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. There's this metric that's been sold to dentists for years and years and years that the number one metric for success for their marketing is new patients, and I don't buy that at all. Maybe for some specific type of practices, but if a Valpak salesman comes along and says, "Hey, we'll get you 100 new patients next month," but in order to do that, you have to give away free cleanings, free initial exams. Right. Of course, you're going to get 100 new patients, but you're going to lose money on the effort and you're never going to see those people again. So was new patients, was that actually the metric for success? I would argue nay. So what I like to use for a metric for success, as far as from a marketing standpoint, is I like to see where we can contribute to top line revenue. Now, I can't necessarily say profit because that's all on the practice side, right? That's their operations, their protocols, their margins. That's really where that happens. So all we can do as a marketer is try to get somebody to actually initiate the call or conversation.
And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think one of the things that dentists or offices really struggle with is that type of patient that they want to attract. And
Yeah.
and I'll be very, look, I lay it on the lines here. For those that don't know, I actually retired from dentistry just last week. This is being recorded in December.
You made it out alive, Len.
I made it out alive, and I'm better. I'm a better person because of it. But many years ago, we did Groupons. I mean, we were a very big Groupon practice because it brought patients in, and it didn't cost me anything. And when I did it back in 2010 when Groupon was literally brand new. I was the very first dentist in Philadelphia to do it. And it brought in overnight 550 patients, became potential patients of mine. And the first round, I made a ton of money. I did really well with it. I was able to convert the patients into being paying patients in the office. It caused me or forced me to create a savings plan or a membership plan in the office, which is still in existence until today. So that to me nowadays, if you consider doing that, you're really looking to attract a portion of the population that is not really, really great for growing a business. But I did things way back when to bring these patients into my practice. You have to decide what type of patients you want to bring in though.
Yeah. And often we end up working with a lot of, fee for service boutique type practices, or ones that are trying to get there, or ones that, they just got their COI center graduation, or now they're placing dental implants. So they're looking for these higher value elective services. And so there's a whole strategy that has to go beyond, or, with that, beyond just how do I get patients in the door? Right. So yeah, it really depends what you're trying to accomplish. But just that blanket statement of new patients is the metric for success, I take issue with that.
And in fact, when people come to me and they say, hey, I'm looking for new patients, I always ask them what they're referring to, because I think going out there, and let's just use for an example, you want to do Google AdWords for general dental patients. I don't think that works really well. I think you need to really target high value patients. So Invisalign, implants, cosmetic dentistry, those work really well with those high value or high costing avenues to market. I don't think it works well for just getting general dental patients.
Yeah, again, there's lots of variables there, and that's one thing that I've learned from being in the trenches for so long, is that one dentist may bottle lightning with a campaign in Phoenix, right? But you try to do the same thing in Philadelphia, it just may not work, because there's so many different market dynamics and so many different variables. So that's, again, why I'm cautious when, people say, hey, I have this amazing marketing tool that works 100% of the time for everybody. I'm very suspicious of that.
I will tell you, the one thing I know that works for everybody is online reviews.
Yeah, imagine that. Raving reviews at that, huh?
Raving patients and online reviews.
Yeah.
Hey, I got lucky into something that obviously is a national phenomena, whereas, in some areas people still do Yellow Pages, but Yellow Pages doesn't work everywhere. They do Google AdWords, and
I've seen mailers kill it in some markets and fall flat in others. Yeah, there's lots of variables.
100% so. So we name this podcast that, most marketers will take advantage of dentists. And I hear that a lot from dentists, is they feel like they're being taken advantage of by the marketing company, or they didn't get the benefit that they promised, or they promised the stars, the moves, and they gave them nothing. So, what's the reason why most marketing, or some marketing companies, or marketing companies out there, take advantage of dental practices?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a laundry list. Probably the one that I run across the most is, Len, probably you've said this yourself, and maybe it's, you can't even count how many times a dentist has said something along the lines of, hey, I pay this SEO company $2,000 a month. I don't even know what they're doing. I get a report that tells me I have so many unique visitors per month, but I don't know what that means. I don't know how that translates to actual revenue or anything like that. And a lot of dentists are just scared to turn it off. They don't even know if it's working, but they're scared to turn it off because, they're afraid of falling behind. I think from what I've seen over the last 15 years is a lot of dentists, particularly probably the middle-aged ones or older, have become almost traumatized from getting left behind one way or another, whether it was, the advent of websites, or then, the coming on of social media or something like that, that they're so scared and nervous about missing out that, they end up bleeding money or wasting funds on things that aren't necessarily benefiting them. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I hear a lot that they feel like they're wasting money in SEO. They don't know what they're doing, or the report they get is a chopped up version of their Google Analytics. And it means that if you don't provide the full Google Analytics, you don't really get a full effect of what they're actually doing for you. Another thing that, I'll ask you your thoughts on, how do you feel about a marketing company that uses a tracking number, which is the same on all different sites, Facebook, Google, My Business, Yelp, you name it. And then that tracking number is used on Google My Business as well. So it's on the website, it's on Google My Business. So it's the same number everywhere. So to me, that's taking advantage of a practice, because when someone goes to Google and they were referred to a practice and they look at the Google My Business phone number and they call it after being referred, the marketing company takes credit for that. But that's not a marketing referral. That's a patient referral, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, using the same tracking number everywhere completely defeats the purpose of using a tracking number. You're supposed to tie it to an individual campaign.
And there are many, many, many companies out there that continue to do that left and right. And when I see it, because I talk to dentists all the time, it's one of the things I point out, that you need to put your regular phone number, especially on your Google business profile.
Len, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's really important for your NAP, your name, address, phone number, citation index, right, across all the sites. That one has to be the same as your actual business number, right, and not a tracking number.
It is, and then that's a big disconnection with the listings and making sure the name, address, and phone number is consistent. But more importantly, there's ways around that. But more importantly, having the same tracking number on every site doesn't mean you're tracking nothing.
Yeah, you might as well just use your office phone number. Yeah.
Right, correct. So in my opinion, that's one way that I think that marketing companies take advantage of dentists, is because they try to prove that every single lead that comes from Google My Business, the website, is their lead and not something else. And that's how they, I don't want to say bake it in, but that's how they bake their numbers so that it looks like they're doing more service to the business.
Yeah, there's many ways. I mean, one that's maybe probably more relevant to us is just overcharging for not unprofessional work, but somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. So we just dealt with this, for example, this female dentist out in, I think she's on the eastern half of the United States. So maybe come back to me while I'm talking, but she paid $12,000 for a website redesign, which in and of itself that's not exorbitant as long as it's a quality site, right? I've been hearing $15,000, $20,000 or more for a quality custom site. But when we looked at it, it was very thin on content. So from an SEO standpoint, that's a huge, faux pas. You don't want to be thin on your copy, and very poorly structured from, I don't know, Len, how deep you are in the most recent announced metrics and signals in Google's algorithm as far as core vitals, speed, all that kind of stuff. But it was a poor performing site. And then when she worked with a reliable SEO company that told her what she needed to have her webmaster do, they wanted something like another $6,000 or $7,000 to go fix it, when, they didn't know what they were doing in the first place. And actually dentists can get in big trouble with this when they think, oh, my daughter just graduated from her graphic design program, or her friend did, so I'm going to pay them to build a website. And there's nothing about Privacy Forum, Accessibility Act, HIPAA compliance, anything like that. So the doctor's just exposing them to legal risk because they don't have that specialty knowledge or that subject matter expertise.
No, I agree with everything you said there. The other thing I see a lot of in my space is I see website companies who basically provide a template, and the content is not unique to their practice. And they say they're getting a custom website, but it's really not custom. It's fully templated, and they're charging them arm and a leg, and they're not going to get anything from that.
Sorry to interrupt you. This one, man, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this over the years, but when you really boil it down, basically the dentist is renting their website, because if the marketing company is using a proprietary platform and you can't take your website with you when you leave, and it's already thin on content anyway, you're basically renting a website indefinitely, a poor one at that. And then when you walk away, you don't get anything, any value when you walk away. So that's another example of taking advantage of the dentist.
What do you think are some red flags that should be up in the air for some of the marketing companies that are really known in the industry to take advantage of dentists, without naming the companies, obviously?
Yeah. How do I navigate that minefield? Let me think about that one for a second, Len.
I'll give one thing. They should look at Facebook groups to see what other people's, experiences are with these companies, which so few people do not do. It's amazing to me that you have these groups that are proliferating online, and you can go in there and simply do a search in the search engine and type in the name of the company, and you'll see everybody who's had experience with them before. To me, that's a big, big, big thing that people don't do enough of.
Yeah, I mean, it's tougher coming from me because I know the technical questions to ask, right? I want to know, hey, what's the back end of the website? Is it content management system? Is it WordPress? I'm a big fan of WordPress. Do I own the copy? Is it unique? that's written on the website. These are types of questions you want to ask. For instance, if you're looking at a website, you'd want to ask someone things. If there's any photographers listening, this may ruffle your feathers, but one of the things that drives me nuts about hiring a professional photographer is you don't own your own photos. You got to pay a licensing fee. You even print your own photos. Drives me nuts. So for us, like when we come to a video shoot and we do photos too, it's your intellectual property. That's part of what you're getting. We give you the files. You can get all the raw footage you want. You can do whatever the heck you want with them, and you don't have to keep paying us a licensing fee. Now, I get that for some professional photographers and videographers, that's their source of income. So they try to defend it, but that's a really grating thing. But yeah, I mean, it would really depend on who you're looking for or what service you're looking at. And yes, to your point, going and checking out reviews, my only word of caution on that is sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you've had this experience before, but if we've had a client that was upset at us for, not a good reason, not to invalidate them or something, but if they're trying to blame us for something that we had no part of, like for instance, maybe we built a website before and they wanted to port over their old blogs, right, from something that another website company had built for them previously. We don't go through each one of the blog posts and check to make sure they have the license for the photo, like the stock photo they're using on their blog post. So if they get hit with an extortion letter from like Getty Images saying, hey, you owe us $1,200, that kind of thing, maybe they're mad at us, but we're like, hey, we never created that for you. That was something you told us to take over. So anyway, I would just, take reviews with a grain of salt there, what they're complaining about. But yeah, just general like responsiveness and ability to hit the creative mark, those kind of things. Those are probably pretty good indicators that it's a quality company if people are consistently saying those things online. Is that fair?
That's fair. No, that's great. That's great. So what do you think is the proper way to approach marketing?
Yeah, that's a big subject. So I'm going to plug my book here a little bit. That question actually led to the development of this framework that I have. I call it the 9 streams of dental marketing. And I find that dentists are smart people, right? You're doctors, for goodness sakes, right? Dentists are pretty smart. But I find that there's maybe assumptions that sometimes they know what they're doing when, in fact, they're not seeing the whole picture. Because when you really get into marketing, it can be pretty complex and it's strategic and there's moving parts there. And I would say that just like any business, you really need to know what your goals are. So this goes back from my Six Sigma days back in, process engineering for companies, but really define what success looks like, understand where you're currently at, identify where you want to get to, and then build a comprehensive plan to get you there with good, solid, sage advice from people who actually know that. Now, that may sound broad, but that's a framework because, there's something, I call it marketing whack-a-mole. That's a term I came up with a long time ago. How many dentists go to some conference and they hear somebody get up raving about, how much custom video is important in your social media. So that's the little gopher that popped up or the mole. So that's what they're whacking. And they go to the next conference. And so their marketing strategy is just chasing whatever the most recent thing they heard was without having some sort of comprehensive, consistent plan in place, right? They'll just abandon. Oh my goodness. We had this client, we were driving so much revenue for them and they just kind of it was like 20-1 or something return. It was ludicrous. And they decided to turn it off because they just wanted to try something new. And so from a business standpoint, if you're a business owner and you know that one of your marketing channels is generating 21 return, is that the one you shut off, Len?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've seen that. And I see that so often too, is they stop things that are working because they want to try something new and they don't realize the ramifications they can do once they do that.
Oh my goodness, man. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I mean, this dentist, we just had a conversation. They used to be a client. They got sold by some designer who wanted to do something for them, make them feel special. And then they saw the last quarter of their year just plummet as far as revenue from new patients and their marketing channels that they had been watching previously. And they called us back like desperate. Hey, can you switch back on my old site? Can you get this flipped over kind of thing? And you're like, well, why did you move it in the first place? There's no good reason other than, I felt like I just needed to try something new.
Needing to try something new is not a reason that you want to cancel something that works for you. So let's make that clear right now. Trying something new does not get you results a lot of times. So obviously, if a lot of these things are happening to you, you're spending hard-earned money on marketing that isn't working. So what are your recommendations if and I hate to say it, I speak to so many different offices, and they almost tell me that they know that their marketing isn't working for them, but they don't know what to do. So if you're listening to this podcast and what Rusty and I are talking resonates with you, Rusty, what should these people do to be able to look at without, look, they assume how many times I said, is your Google AdWords working? Well, I don't know. People tell me they find me on Google, but nobody says Google Ads per se. So many people are wasting money doing that. But if they're in this position, what is your suggestion if they think they're bleeding money?
Yeah, Len, when you asked me that, I just had 3 specific examples of different clients we work with pop into my head for probably not the reason that you're looking for, but I think it's worth discussing. I had a practice here in Utah. We had a practice out in Virginia, and then a practice out in Minnesota, where it was all kind of a similar version of the same instance where they started bleeding out, not getting new revenue, and they pointed the finger at marketing immediately. Whether that was to blame us or whether that was to engage us, saying like, hey, I got to fix my marketing. Can you guys help? When they actually took a look at it, the problem wasn't a lot of dentists, I think, externalize or project the issues of their own operations outside on marketing because that's easier emotionally, right? To push it out there. But here's a great example. We had this practice out in Virginia. She had good tracking mechanisms, and so she was tracking consistently between, I think, $400,000 to $500,000 a year in new patient revenue to her marketing. So she had the proper tracking mechanisms in place so she could do it. The next year, she dropped to like 120. And so she fired us immediately because the assumption was, oh, my marketing's not working, right? We got a call back from her a couple months later, and she went, I realized what the problem was. I need to hire you back. She had been having so much team turnover, and they weren't answering the phones. They weren't following their scripts. They weren't doing it right. They were still getting the same number of calls, but they weren't handling them well. And so it was bleeding out operationally. So she thought the problem was marketing, but really she bled out almost $500,000 because they weren't answering the phones right. And we actually had this example just happen recently up in Seattle where this practice was spending about $8,000 to $12,000, maybe somewhere around $8,000 a month consistently on marketing. And they were getting 1 patient a month. And when I found this out, I called them up. I went, wait, what the heck? Why are you spending this much money and only seeing 1 new patient a month? What's going on? Why haven't you complained about this? Right. And they said, well, it's hard to get people to work. And we have our front desk manager. She's great. And we can't run our practice without her, but she doesn't like answering the phone. So I'm like, you're spending how many dollars to try to get your phone to ring and she's not even answering it? Right. So my point in saying those stories, and there's several like that, is it's not always marketing, right? Look at operations first. Go through the checklist and process of elimination. Identify, if you think of a funnel, where are people bleeding out and why? Because if you're answering your phone and you listen and you monitor those calls and your front desk is answering them perfectly, the phone's just not ringing, then you can back up into that, okay, well, yeah, we need to get the phone ringing more. So what marketing can we do to fix this? And then from that, then you start doing process of elimination too of, okay, which tactics are working and aren't. But I would just say, first thing you need to look at is look in the mirror practice-wise, metaphorically, and figure out what's going on there.
I will tell you that I think a lot of times when you look at the phones, the team members don't answer the phones properly. They don't answer all the phone calls. I'm a big proponent of using some type of call center to answer the calls for new patients because you have a dedicated person doing it rather than having someone at the front who's trying to basically maneuver all around and handle the people who are in the office, handle the insurance, handle the complaints, handle the phone answering. Just way, way, way too much. You should be looking at some type of remote service to do that for you so you can ensure that all your calls are being answered. 100% I agree with you there.
That's where I defer to the practice of the dentist, right? You guys run your business how you want to, whatever works. But before you start blaming the marketing or thinking that marketing is the solution, figure out what's going internally or happening internally first.
Let's talk about video marketing. So as I mentioned at the very beginning of the episode, you came into my office. You and your team spent a day or two in the office at my home.
Which is not common, by the way. I've only been on 4 or 5 shoots, but yours was one of them.
But it was great, and that video lasted a long time with what you were able to accomplish for us, and it was really well done. I'm a huge proponent of the video. I talk about video testimonials. I call them trustimonials, which I think is a really important thing as well. So why don't we hear your take on the importance of video marketing?
Yeah, the statistics are pretty clear, and they're measured across multiple industries, not just dentistry, but it's pretty apparent that quality video that does a good job of communicating the value of a product or service significantly increases conversion rates. And that's as simple as I can put it. So particularly if you're talking about dentistry, where there's a lot of emotions behind it, I would argue that most Americans have some level, somewhere on the spectrum of dental, anxiety or phobia, concerns about it. There's obviously the big three when people are deciding to go to a dentist. That's money, time, fear, right, about doing it. But if they're at the point when they're looking for either an elective service or looking for a dentist, and they're deciding between you and the other 10 people that come up in Google Maps near them, maybe that either take insurance or whatever, that offer the treatments they want, if you have a compelling video that builds rapport with somebody and they feel like they already get to know you a little bit better, this is actually a psychological phenomenon. It's called a parasocial relationship, where it's often one-sided. If you ever see people that track their favorite person on Instagram or YouTube, they feel like that person is a friend of theirs, but it's one way. The same thing when a doctor creates a wonderful video like that, when that person watches it, they start to feel a connection there. And that's a much more compelling, strong way to convince them that you're the practice to call.
That's great. And I mean, like I said, I think video is important. I think we touched on how important it was. I do want to switch to the next part, and we'll get your contact information. We'll get the specials you want to throw out there in a couple of minutes. I do want to switch to the fun part of the podcast for me. Not that this wasn't fun, but this is the fun part, is getting you on some Q&A, lightning round Q&A. So, Rusty, let's start off here. The rules of engagement here. I'm going to read you a question. Answer it as quickly as you can. Oh, okay.
Wow. Okay.
No big thought. No big thought needed here. No long drawn answers.
Well, that's easy for you to say. These people are judging me by my thoughts. All right, Len. I'll try it.
If you had a chance to start your career over again, what would you do differently?
I don't like playing the hypothetical game right there. I've landed in a good place with pretty much everything I could ask for in life, so I wouldn't gamble that away.
All right. What characteristics or skills are most important for business leaders?
For me, being able to connect with people, having a strategic, creative mind as well as the business mind. I mean, obviously you're putting me on the spot here to kind of brag about myself a little bit, but I've found over the years that, for instance, my dad was a glassblower. He's a master glassblower, and I grew up in kind of an artist community in that way. And then I've got a heavy military side of my family, very strategic, very intentional. And so I find that a lot of people aren't good at hippie speak and then military speak and going right back and forth and seamlessly. And so from a business standpoint, particularly running a creative business, that served me well.
What mindsets have helped make you successful?
Determination, creativity. And when I say creativity, I'm including creative problem solving.
Okay. If you achieved all of your life goals tomorrow, what would you do next?
I would want to, I don't know if fear is the right word, but I have a deep-rooted need to feel like I'm contributing. Not necessarily attention, not necessarily doing that, but building up something valuable to humankind and to the Almighty, if I want to get religious there. So whatever capacity, I'm probably not going to be retiring at any point in my life, but I'll probably be transitioning to different forms of work and applying my abilities and skill sets in different formats.
Got it. How do you capture and keep track of your ideas? Do you keep a notebook? Do you do voice memos?
I think I've got a pretty good system now where I track it digitally. I've got, I like to use Apple products with their native apps as opposed to going and getting something like a third-party app like Evernote or something like that, because I like that seamless, non-glitch syncing. So if I'm on my laptop, I can capture something real quick in the correct note or throw it on one of my specific reminder lists, and that I've always got that with me. And so then tracking goals, tracking accomplishment, as well as production on projects, that kind of thing. I feel like I've got a pretty good system there now.
Okay. Describe Mondays for you in one word.
Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. I love Mondays. So I think that's probably more the entrepreneur. It's like, Sunday's a day of rest for me. So I'm kind of chomping at the bit, ready to get going on Monday to tackle the week.
Okay. Who is the one person you'd love to have as a mentor?
I like to read a lot. And I know that you're looking for one specific answer there, but I believe that I've got a library full of mentors that I can go back to. And I love going back to all those authors who have mentored me over the years. I mean, again, I can go religious and, say some figures there, but if we're talking from a secular standpoint, the founding fathers were pretty exceptional. You can go back to some of the ancient philosophers. I don't have a one-word answer for you, Len, on that one.
Okay. Do you have a favorite business podcast?
I'm actually, funny enough, I'm behind the times a little bit. I'm just kind of getting into podcasts. Before I didn't get it. I'd rather watch a video or do something like that. But now I'm kind of coming around to podcasts. So I wouldn't say that I have a favorite one yet.
Who would you love to collaborate with, and what would you like to collaborate on?
Well, Elon Musk seems to be able to come up with some big ideas and execute them. So that would be interesting. Come up with the next world-changing technology. I'm interested in alternative fuels. That's got to be an interesting future, and I imagine he has an insight or two in that.
Gotcha. Okay. And last question here. How do you know when you have the right idea?
Being kind of a serial entrepreneur, I've gotten excited about so many ideas in the past that when I tried to execute them, they failed and some succeeded. Funny enough, DentalCMO was not necessarily, I had my hands kind of in multiple projects at the time. DentalCMO was not necessarily my baby, if you will. That wasn't, my sweetheart, but that's the one that succeeded the most at the time. And so I had to make kind of an adult decision with the young family and say, hey, this is the one we need to stick to. So I will say that I've misfired on many things that I was really excited about. Some things that I was really excited about did go through, but yeah, I haven't completely cracked that nut. I'm not batting 1,000 on if I'm excited about idea, it actually works.
All right. Well, thanks for answering those questions. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope the listeners enjoyed that as well, and the viewers as well. So, Rusty, how can people get in touch with you? Did you want to throw an offer out to those who are listening to the podcast who want to learn more about your services?
Yeah, so we would love to. I mean, obviously, we do websites, brochures, and branding. We're really good at and that stuff, but we love doing videos. As far as I know, we are kind of, I'm going to brag here a little bit, but I don't know any group that does better quality videos at a better price than us. And for your listeners, we'll throw $500 off the video package if they, let's see, this one is dropping, we'll say till the end of February. So if you reach us by the end of February, we'll give you $500 off on a video package to come out and shoot that. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can go to our website, you can schedule a consult, or you can just reach me directly at rusty@dentalcmo.com.
And that's the website, DentalCMO.com. Okay, perfect. Rusty, thank you so much for joining to me and sharing your expertise. Guys, if you like the episode, please share it. Please tell your friends, colleagues. Please subscribe to the episode. Recommend your friends subscribe to the episode. Thanks to sponsors, Dental Intelligence, the doc sites, and Cloud Dentistry. And remember, I'm having a meeting in Delray Beach. I'm super excited about. It should already have been released by this point in terms of registration. Go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com to learn more. We have early bird specials right now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing people down in Delray Beach in September of 2023. Rusty, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to everyone soon.